Welcome to Real English Voices.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. I am so excited for today because we are tackling a topic that literally changes lives.
That is right, Ria. Today isn't just about grammar or vocabulary words. It's about what happens inside your head. We're talking about the mindset for success.
This is huge, Tom. I talk to so many students who have perfect textbooks and great teachers, but they still feel stuck. They feel like they aren't moving forward.
Exactly. That is the missing piece of the puzzle. You can have the best map in the world, but if your car has no engine, you aren't going anywhere. Your mindset is the engine.
I love that analogy. So, where do we start? When we say mindset, what does that actually mean for someone learning English or trying to achieve a big goal?
Well, let's look at the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. This concept comes from a researcher named Carol Dweck. A fixed mindset says, I am just not good at languages. It believes your talent is set in stone.
Oh, I hear that all the time. People say, Ria, I'm just too old, or I don't have the language gene.
Right, that's the fixed mindset talking. It's a trap. The growth mindset, on the other hand, says, I am not good at this yet, but with effort, I can get better. It believes that your brain is like a muscle that grows when you exercise it.
The power of yet. I remember when I was first learning to edit audio for this podcast, I was terrible. I wanted to quit. I kept telling you, Tom, I can't do this.
I remember that. You were so frustrated. You were ready to throw the computer out the window.
I really was. But then you told me to change my language. You said stop saying I can't do it, say I haven't figured it out yet. And honestly, just changing that one word changed how I felt. It took the pressure off.
It really does. When you realize that struggle is just part of the learning process, you stop taking it personally. You stop thinking, I am stupid, and start thinking, I am learning.
That is such a relief. So, success starts with believing you can improve. But, Tom, what about the hard days? The days when you try to speak English and you make a huge mistake and feel embarrassed? A growth mindset sounds nice, but emotions are powerful.
That's a great point. Resilience is key here. Resilience means the ability to recover quickly from difficulties or toughness. If you're learning a language, you will make mistakes. It's guaranteed.
Oh, absolutely. I still make mistakes in English sometimes, and I've been speaking it for years.
And that's okay. The successful mindset doesn't fear mistakes. It actually welcomes them. Think of a baby learning to walk. When they fall down, they don't think, maybe walking isn't for me. They just get up.
That is true. Adults are so hard on themselves. We have this ego that gets in the way. We want to look perfect immediately.
Precisely. We have to let go of perfectionism. Perfectionism is actually the enemy of fluency. If you wait until you can speak perfectly, you will never speak.
Wow, that is a powerful statement. Perfectionism is the enemy of fluency. I think we need to pause right there because we've covered some really deep concepts in just a few minutes. Tom, can you recap some of the vocabulary we just used?
Sure thing. We used some strong words there. The first one is mindset. This refers to your established set of attitudes or beliefs. It's how you view the world. The second word is resilience. This is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or toughness. And the third word is perfectionism. This is the refusal to accept any standard short of perfection.
Thank you, Tom. Those are great words to add to your vocabulary list. So here's a question for all our listeners out there. I want you to answer this out loud or write it down. When was the last time you stopped yourself from speaking English because you were afraid of making a mistake? Be honest with yourself.
That's a tough question, but answering it is the first step to breaking that fear. Now, Ria, let's talk about another aspect of the success mindset: consistency versus intensity.
Ooh, this is a good one. I feel like everyone wants a magic pill. They want to study for 10 hours on Sunday and then do nothing for the rest of the week.
Exactly, and that never works. The brain doesn't learn that way. Success comes from small, consistent actions. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't brush your teeth for 2 hours on Sunday and then skip the rest of the week. You do it for 2 minutes, twice a day, every day.
That image is hilarious, but it makes total sense. So for English, it's better to listen to a podcast for 15 minutes every morning than to cram for 5 hours on the weekend.
100%. It keeps the language fresh in your mind. It builds momentum. Momentum is when an object in motion stays in motion. When you study every day, even for a little bit, you keep that momentum going. It becomes harder to stop than to keep going.
I love that feeling of momentum. It is like pushing a heavy cart. At first, it is so hard to get it moving. You are sweating and pushing, but once it's rolling, you just have to tap it to keep it going.
That is the perfect visual, and that initial push is usually the hardest part. That's why motivation is unreliable. People wait to feel motivated before they study, but motivation is an emotion. It comes and goes like the weather.
So true. Some days I wake up ready to conquer the world, and other days I just want to stay in bed and watch movies.
We all have those days. That's why you need discipline, not just motivation. Discipline is doing what you need to do even when you don't feel like it. A successful mindset relies on habits and discipline, not just excitement.
So how do we build that discipline? Because it sounds like hard work.
It can be, but you can hack it. You can use something called habit stacking. This is where you attach a new habit to an old one. For example, if you drink coffee every morning, make a rule that you will listen to one English audio clip while you drink your coffee.
I love that, because I am definitely going to drink my coffee. That's a guarantee. So if I link English to coffee, English becomes a guarantee too.
Exactly. You remove the decision. You don't have to decide to study. It just happens automatically with the coffee.
That is so smart. It removes the willpower from the equation. You know, Tom, another thing I notice about successful people is who they surround themselves with.
Ah, the environment. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes, if all your friends are negative and complain about how hard English is, you will probably feel the same way. But if you find a community of learners who are excited and supportive, it changes everything.
It really does. Energy is contagious. If you're around people who have a growth mindset, you catch that mindset. It's hard to stay negative when everyone around you is cheering you on.
That is why we always tell our listeners to comment and interact with each other. We are building a community here. We are not just individuals struggling alone. We are a team.
We certainly are, and realizing you're not alone is a huge part of success. Before we move on to how to handle big challenges, let's take a quick pause to review.
Yes, let's do it. We had some really useful concepts in that last segment.
Okay, the 3 hard words from this part of our conversation are these. First, momentum. This is the impetus and driving force gained by the development of a process, like the heavy cart rolling. Second is discipline. This is the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior, or in this case, training yourself to do work. And third is contagious. Usually we use this for sickness, but here it means likely to spread to and affect others, like an emotion or an attitude.
Perfect definitions. Okay, listeners, here is your question for this segment. What is one habit you already do every single day, like drinking coffee or brushing your teeth, that you could stack a little bit of English practice onto? Think about your daily routine.
That's a very practical question. I hope everyone actually tries that tomorrow morning. Now, Ria, let's go deeper. Let's talk about the fear of judgment. This is a big one for language learners.
Oh, the biggest. I think this is why people quit. They're terrified of sounding foolish in front of others. They think everyone is judging their accent or their grammar.
It's a very primal fear. We want to belong to the tribe. We don't want to be the outsider. But here's a secret that successful people know. Most people aren't thinking about you at all. They're thinking about themselves.
Wait, say that again. That's important.
Most people are not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. It's called the spotlight effect. We walk around thinking there's a spotlight on us and everyone is watching our every move, but in reality, everyone else is in their own spotlight, worrying about how they look.
That is actually so freeing. So when I stumble over a word, the person I'm talking to isn't thinking, wow, Ria is terrible at this. They're probably thinking, did I leave the stove on? Or what should I say next?
Exactly. Or they're just focusing on the message, trying to understand what you mean. They aren't grading your grammar. They want to connect with you. Connection is more important than perfection.
Connection over perfection. I need to tattoo that on my arm. That is a beautiful mantra.
It shifts your focus. Instead of looking inward and judging yourself, look outward and focus on the other person. Ask yourself, how can I make them feel understood? How can I help them? When you focus on serving others, your fear disappears.
That is profound, Tom. It turns communication into an act of giving rather than a performance.
Yes. If you view English as a performance, you will always be nervous. If you view it as a tool to connect and help, you will be confident.
I remember a listener wrote to us saying she was afraid to speak during meetings at work. She had great ideas, but she stayed silent because she was afraid of her accent.
That is heartbreaking, isn't it? Her company missed out on her great ideas because of fear. What would you tell her, knowing what we know now?
I would tell her that her voice is valuable. Her ideas matter more than her accent, and that having an accent just means she knows 2 languages, which is a superpower, not a weakness.
Amen to that. An accent is a sign of bravery. It means you stepped out of your comfort zone. Never apologize for your accent. It is part of your story.
So, a successful mindset embraces uniqueness. It doesn't try to blend in and be invisible. It stands tall. But Tom, how do we handle the plateau? You know, that middle stage where you stop seeing progress.
Ah, the intermediate plateau. This is the danger zone. In the beginning, you learn fast. Every day you learn 10 new words. But then progress slows. You feel like you're working hard, but staying in the same place.
It is so frustrating. It feels like walking in mud.
It does, but a successful mindset reframes this. The plateau isn't a place where nothing is happening. It is a place where consolidation is happening. Your brain is organizing all the information you learned. It's like a computer installing updates. The screen might look frozen, but there's a lot of work happening in the background.
So, we have to trust the process?
Yes, you have to fall in love with the process, not just the result. If you only care about the certificate or the final goal, the plateau will kill your motivation. But if you enjoy the daily act of learning, the plateau doesn't matter as much.
That goes back to curiosity, right? If you are genuinely curious about the language/culture, you enjoy the journey.
Curiosity is the fuel for the long term. A curious mind is never bored. Instead of getting frustrated that you don't understand a movie, get curious. Ask, why did they use that phrase? What does that slang mean?
Turn frustration into fascination. That's a nice shift. Instead of, I don't get it, say, I wonder how that works.
Exactly. It changes your brain chemistry. Frustration shuts down the learning centers of the brain. Curiosity opens them up.
I feel like we're doing therapy for language learners today. This is so good. Let's take another moment to catch those vocabulary words before we keep going.
Good idea. We had some psychological terms there. First, primal. This means relating to an early stage in evolutionary development. Fear is a primal emotion. It is deep and basic. Second is consolidation. This is the action or process of combining a number of things into a single, more effective whole. In learning, it is when your brain cements new knowledge. And third is fascination. This is the power to fascinate or charm, a strong interest.
Wonderful. Okay, listeners, time for your next question. I want you to think about a time you felt stuck or hit a plateau. Did you quit or did you keep going? And if you kept going, what kept you moving?
Reflecting on past victories is a great way to build confidence for the future. You've probably overcome more than you give yourself credit for.
That is so true. We often forget our wins and only remember our failures.
Speaking of wins, let's talk about visualization. This is something top athletes do. They visualize themselves winning the race before they even step on the track. Can we use this for English?
I've heard of this, like imagining yourself having a fluent conversation.
Yes. Your brain has trouble telling the difference between a vivid imagination and reality. If you close your eyes and truly feel the emotion of speaking confidently, you're actually training your neural pathways.
So if I imagine myself ordering a coffee in New York and feeling great about it, that actually helps?
It does. It builds familiarity. So when you actually get to New York, your brain says, "Oh, I've been here before. I know how to do this."
That is wild. But I guess if you always imagine yourself failing, you're training yourself to fail.
Precisely. That's the danger of negative self-talk. If you keep telling yourself, "I'm going to mess up, I'm going to freeze," you're rehearsing failure. You're practicing the very thing you don't want to happen.
We have to be so careful with our internal dialogue. It is like having a roommate in your head. If that roommate was constantly criticizing you, you would kick them out.
You would. You wouldn't tolerate a friend talking to you the way you talk to yourself. Be kind to yourself. A successful mindset is a kind mindset.
That brings me to a question about comparison. In the age of social media, we see people online who say, I learned English in 3 months, or I speak 12 languages perfectly. It makes us feel inadequate.
Comparison is the thief of joy. You have to remember that social media is a highlight reel. You see their success, but you don't see the thousands of hours of study, the mistakes, the bad days.
And everyone has a different starting point. Maybe that person had a parent who spoke the language, or they had the money to live in the country.
Exactly. Your journey is your own. The only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. If you know more today than you did yesterday, you are winning.
That is a healthy perspective. Progress, not perfection. And progress is personal.
Let's talk about goal setting for a moment. A successful mindset needs a target, but vague goals don't work.
Like saying, I want to be fluent. That is too vague, right?
Way too vague. What does fluent even mean? Does it mean passing a test, ordering food, discussing politics? You need specific, measurable goals.
So instead of, I want to learn English, it should be, I want to be able to read one news article without a dictionary by next month.
Perfect. That is specific. You know exactly when you have achieved it, and when you hit that goal, celebrate it.
Yes, we don't celebrate enough. We just move the goalpost. We hit a goal and immediately say, okay, what is next? We never pause to say, good job, me.
Celebration releases dopamine. It makes your brain feel good. It reinforces the habit. If you never reward yourself, your brain will eventually say, "This isn't fun, I quit."
So buy yourself a chocolate, take a day off, do something nice when you reach a milestone.
Absolutely. Success is a cycle of effort and reward. You need both.
I think we're getting close to the end of our time, but I have one more burning question. What about age? I have listeners who are 60, 70 years old. They worry it is too late for them to develop this mindset.
It is never, ever too late. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, continues until the day we die. You can learn new things at 90. In fact, learning a language is one of the best things you can do to keep your brain young.
I love that. So you're not just learning a language, you're keeping your brain healthy.
Yes, a growth mindset has no expiration date. You can decide today, right now, to change how you think. You can decide to be curious, to be resilient, to be kind to yourself.
That is so empowering. It puts the control back in our hands. We can't control the world, but we can control our mindset.
And that's the ultimate secret to success. It's an inside job.
Tom, this has been an incredible conversation. I feel motivated just listening to you. Let's do one final vocabulary check before we say goodbye.
Let's do it. We covered some important ground here. First word is neuroplasticity. This is the ability of the brain to form and reorganize synaptic connections, especially in response to learning. Second is inadequate. This means lacking the quality or quantity required, insufficient for a purpose. It's that feeling of not being enough. And the third word is milestone. This is an action or event marking a significant change or stage in development.
Excellent. And for our final question of the episode, listeners, I want you to dream a little. If you had the perfect English mindset, no fear, total confidence, what is the one thing you would do tomorrow? Would you apply for a job, call a friend, travel?
Visualizing that action is the first step to making it happen.
Tom, thank you for sharing your wisdom today. This wasn't just an English lesson, it was a life lesson.
My pleasure, Ria. And to all our listeners, thank you for letting us be a part of your journey. Remember, the fact that you're listening to this podcast proves that you have a growth mindset. You're trying to improve. You're already winning.
That's right. Keep pushing, keep learning, and don't forget to enjoy the process.
See you next time on Real English Voices.
Bye, everyone. Keep talking.